is with that observation, the author, or what we would call the teacher inside this passage of scripture, is communicating the idea of how the government is jacked up. But not only jacked up, but a person can prepare and do everything they can to try to get a certain position, but that preparation does not 100% mean you will get that position.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that kind of speaks to the idea of like, you know, not putting your identity in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. Yeah. Because I feel like, especially nowadays, a lot of men and just a lot of people in general really identify with their work, which is cool. You know, I mean, if that, you could say that's something that you enjoy, but to make that your identity, to make that your all being, like, I feel like that might be taking it a step further, because as soon as you make a failure in that, you're now coming at yourself when it's like, whoa, let's calm down now, you know?
Yeah. Not even make a failure, but like, the old adage is, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So you could be the best in your field almost, but somebody else could have the job over you just because of luck or who they know or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that outcome, which is not totally in your control, is all of a sudden, you know, considered a failure to you and impacts your identity. And so, you know, it's also not what you know, but who you know. It's a good thing we know Jesus, right? Because then we have identity in him through that. But I think you're right. And I think a lot of issues, like societal issues, we kind of change where we find our identity in. I think we've seen transitions in society where maybe we used to find our identity in other people, in family or something like that. And then we realized, no, that doesn't really work. So we're going to find our identity in our work. And it's like, oh, well, that kind of fails too. And now there's this self-help wave of we're going to find our identity in ourselves and supporting ourselves and helping ourselves grow.
Yeah. It could even be
that's going to fail too.
It can even be in like race, sexuality, multiple things, when honestly, like, that shouldn't be where your identity is.
Right. So all these societal issues are coming from where you're finding your identity and your value. And when you come at it, those issues from a societal standpoint too, and you say, well, let's change where we find our identity in. If you find your identity in anything else but Jesus or in God, it's gonna fail. It's gonna cause issues. It's gonna look like a different issue than it did before, but it's still gonna be an issue.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, that's why, you know, I consider societal issues spiritual issues, because we're not finding our identity in what we're supposed to.
Yeah, that's really good. Wow. That's a really good point. I would 100% agree with that, because I feel like when you put your faith or when you put your identity in Jesus and in God, from that point, it actually teaches you how to live your life, how to properly organize and discipline your life for the greater good. Does that like make sense?
Yeah.
And I like to think of it like this too. Like, even, you know, let's just put in like a standpoint of like a marriage, you know, or getting into a relationship. It's like, dude, if just imagine if you can love God, a person that you don't see, you know, that it's, you know, they're not there. Well, I don't want to say physically not there, or, you know, like we all know that God is spiritually and physically there with us, you know, helping us through our problems. But, you know, the fact that we can't see him or physically touch him or anything like that makes it really difficult. And that makes me think, if you can love and pursue and aspire to try to make that relationship right, how much more can you love someone that's here?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that right there is a huge gap, where I feel like if you just focus right on that relationship with you and God, that will help inform the way you actually live your life, and then help you better your relationships overall. Does that like make sense?
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely bleeds into everything else.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know the exact verse, but it says God is love.
Yeah.
And so then you make that relationship with love itself, the actual embodiment of love. All of a sudden, now you have a relationship with that, and you understand how to love those around you better. And you understand what love looks like when you receive it too.
Yeah.
You have a better understanding of that. And, you know, we can get into these kind of miscommunications of what love is. We can get into issues of distrust of people, because we're not sure if they love us, and then we find our identity in that, and we struggle with, if they don't love us back, then that harms our identity. But when you have a relationship with love itself, how much is that going to impact everything else in your life?
Yeah.